There we go. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, it looks like I had it on mute. Welcome, and this is Q&A 3. So we are 3 weeks in, and tomorrow is going to be the hot seat where we review your first assignment, so it's kind of a big week. I'm excited. Thank you for being here live. Anthony, I see you. How's it going? Daryl, Deborah, Giles, Richard, and Yelena, thank you all for being here live. I appreciate that. If you're listening to the recording, we're going to go over live questions first, and I'm going to repeat them back when people write them out, and then we're going to go over the ones that were in the Facebook group. So that. Oh, Jenny too, welcome. How's it going? Okay, guys, so like I said, we're going to go over live questions first. So if you have questions and you decided to be on this thing live, we're going to reward that and ask them now. So you can ask them about the content, whether it was some of the last few modules like the Big 4 or the 10x your freelance fees, or the newest module, which is the 25/4 rule. You can ask about that, anything about the assignment prior to me grading them, anything about the new assignment, or anything about your business or copy in general. This is your time. So we're going to be on here for probably about an hour, depending on how many questions go. We might go a little over that, but we'll see. But yeah, go ahead and shoot. You can ask the question in the question box on the GoToWebinar panel that you're on right now. So just type that thing in, and we will go from there. If appropriate, we'll probably bring you on live the way we did with Richard last time. But yeah, anybody have any questions live? If not, I will hop over to Facebook and start answering those. No one, not yet. Okay. All right. Jenny, yes. Let me go ahead and copy that link. So this might be good for a lot of people as well. Jenny asked a question about her proposal, updated proposal. I gave her some quick advice on messaging, and let's see. Framework example of how we write our proposals, or how I write proposals. Sure. So here's the thing. It depends a lot on the type of client that you're working with, which is why I couldn't answer this really quickly. Jenny, it sounds like you're working with a bigger company for bigger project fees. They sound a little bit more corporate, which means that they typically have standard procedures that they always go through. And dealing with those types of companies are very different than dealing with, say, a solopreneur or an entrepreneur who still does a lot of this stuff in their company. So when you're looking at a proposal for a big company, you need to take a couple things in mind, which is stuff we already discussed, but we can go over again. The biggest thing is that the proposal is usually not going to be seen by a person with yes power right away. In your case specifically, Jenny, it looks like you spoke with the CEO regarding systems and then were kind of funneled over to the marketing director when they realized you needed help, or they needed help doing marketing. So what that does is gives you a referral straight from their boss, which is a good thing, but it also means you're now dealing with a person who may not have the power to say yes to your proposal financially, but they definitely have the power to say no or to kind of hamstring the process. And so, like we talked about earlier, one of your main goals is to get that person on your team and to get that person as an advocate, not only for you as a individual vendor, but also for your plan. And to do that, you have to make yourself non-threatening and you have to make yourself valuable in their context, in that marketing director's context. So will it help them get promoted? Will it help them look good to their boss? Will it help them produce the results that they're required to produce as an employee? Those types of questions are what's going to be passing through their mind. Also, they're going to be wondering, are they worried about you taking their job, or you replacing them in some cases? That's going to be one of their main concerns. So the initial proposal that gets shown to the marketing director has to kind of weave in the idea that the marketing director is going to benefit greatly personally from this, and it's also going to be valuable to the company, because odds are the marketing director is going to see it, and they're going to like it. And if they choose to go forward with it, then they're either going to take the proposal as is and show it to their boss and say, this is what we're going to do, or this is what I would recommend, or they're going to take pieces of it and try to explain it to their boss and say, this is what I recommend. So with all that, dealing with bigger clients is going to be more tricky than smaller clients, just plain and simple, because there's a little bit more politics involved. If you're going to deal with smaller clients, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, things like that, where the CEO is also the main decision maker, the main marketer, all those types of things, then your proposal can actually be very simple. And that's why I'm going over the big strategy here, because I don't have a specific framework. I always tailor it to the client themselves. Sometimes all the proposal I need to do is an email, and that email is, you know, lines out kind of specifically what the project specs are, what they can expect to earn from my copywriting, and then we go from there. Sometimes my proposals are just Facebook messages where the guy messages me or the girl messages me and says, hey, this is what we're working on this time. Those are usually previous clients. And we go, okay, yep, well, let's agree on the scope. Let's get an email out there that we both agree to that is the scope, and then we'll start transferring fees. Now, with that said, those are previous clients, and those are usually solopreneurs. So it varies every single time. I wish I could give you a specific framework or template on how to write your proposal, but it will vary for every single client you work with. Now, if you start noticing yourself working with the same types of clients over and over again, and the leads that you're generating are all very, very similar, as in, you know, maybe in your case, Jenny, you're dealing with 25-person companies and they have, you know, a marketing director that you speak with every single time, and your fees are within the $25,000 to $50,000 range, then perhaps you can templatize your proposal because it'll help you speed things up. But proposals are sales letters for your work, and because of that, I kind of shun the idea of creating a template for them. Does that make sense, Jenny? Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. Yep. So what you did here makes a lot of sense. You're bringing up the issues first and foremost, because this is the reason they're hiring you in the first place. You're talking about the fundamental marketing principles overview. You're talking about solutions, and then you're talking about specific deliverables. And I like how short it is. It's easy to read. It's something that could, you know, fit on one piece of paper and be read in a minute or two, which is really, really important for the person who's making the decision to keep talking to you, not necessarily the decision for financial reasons. Now, with that said, though, many, many times, and this is true of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and big companies, the proposal is more of a formality, and they've already made the decision to work with you or not work with you before you submit the proposal. So understand that. If they are lukewarm about working with you, as in, yeah, okay, well, we'll think about it. Why don't you just send over a proposal and we'll have a look. That's a lukewarm response. I would not be very confident in sending over that proposal. Now, keep in mind that proposal is it's your time, it's your energy, basically you're working on it as a sales letter, so you have to put that time, energy into it. And so if you get a lukewarm response like that, that you and your gut feel that they're not going to respond positively to, then you can, as the freelancer, say, hey, or right up front, either in the call or in an email, hey, how keen are you guys to move forward on this project? If it's a hell yes, then let's do it. If it's kind of a wishy-washy thing, then let's hold off on it for now, because I work best with clients who are hell yeses. Something like that, that kind of owns your positioning and authority and shows them that you're not scrambling around for work. One of the biggest turnoffs to anyone who buys services from someone is for that vendor to be scrambling around for work or really desperate for work. So I would also add that into it. Let me know if that was helpful, Jenny. Cool. All right, so Anthony Hall says, I've done a lot of email marketing, so I find that I write best in small bursts of 200 to 300 words. And I'm wondering if that's one of the good ways to write a sales letter, or if there's any other techniques I use to write. Okay, so writing is habitual. And so if you've done a lot of email marketing and you've written emails for yourself and clients, then you're going to naturally see yourself trend towards shorter messages, punchier copy, things like that. And it might be a little bit harder to write longer form copy. But one of the ways that I would break out of that habit is to just start writing longer form copy. I mean, these assignments are 2,000 words. So that's obviously 10 times what you have been writing, which is a good way to kind of get out of your comfort zone. A lot of the previous students found that 2,000 words started to become very easy towards the end of it, whereas 2,000 words right now feels like a ton. Like I think it's only 5 or 6 pages, but right now it feels like a ton for most people. So that's one thing. Practice writing longer stuff. Now, if you're writing a sales letter, I honestly don't like breaking it up personally, and here's why. And I'm going to caveat that by saying that it's a personal thing. I don't like breaking it up because it's like breaking up a conversation. So if you're sitting down in a chair with someone and they're your ideal client and you are the solution provider, whether that's you or your client that you're writing the sales message for, if you're sitting in a chair and talking with them, you're not going to get up after everything you say and walk away and then come back and sit down. It's just not natural. So I like to pretend that I'm sitting there talking with them and going through the entire thing. And having a true conversation means I'm going to mess up, I'm going to put ums, I'm going to talk, I'm going to repeat myself. And then once I'm done with that conversation, I go back and look at it and see how can I improve this and how can I edit this. So for me, it's easier to just pretend that I'm sitting down in that chair and talking with the client and using my natural voice to try and convince them, using the research that I've already done on them. And once that's happened, I will come back to it sporadically and work on it and edit it if I need to, if it's one of those big important pieces. So that's my personal technique. Now, it might not be yours. I know that Eugene Schwartz worked in 33-minute increments, I believe. So he worked no more than 4 hours a day, and I think he broke his writing into 33-minute increments and then went on for a walk or a stretch or something and came back and wrote for another 33 minutes. Very much like a Pomodoro technique. And that's how Eugene Schwartz did it. And obviously he's an amazing writer. I know Gary Halbert wrote so many drafts. He was kind of like the Hemingway of copywriting in a lot of ways. So he would just hammer out a draft, throw it away, hammer out a draft, throw it away, hammer out a draft, and throw it away. And that was his process. So he wrote a ton for every actual sales message that he got out. For me, I tend to write one long conversation and then spend my time editing and shoring that up, because I've tried to cultivate a natural voice in how I want to sell something, and I feel like the more authentic you are with the better understanding of your research you have, then the better your sales message is going to be, not necessarily if you hit every single bullet to make that sales message as powerful as possible. So that's how I would do it, Anthony. Hopefully that was helpful, but that's my advice. A lot of this course, guys, is designed to show you principles and fundamentals, but also to encourage you to find your own processes and find your own templates. One of the things that I think is the biggest problem with copywriting today is that everyone is convinced that there's some secret formula out there that everybody should be using, when in reality, marketing changes every single time someone puts something out. And so once something works, then the next time someone does that exact same thing, there's going to be a massive decrease in its effectiveness. Just plain and simple. That's why most of the launches and most of the big marquee results that you hear people talking about are new and different. That's why product launches worked so well back in the day, and now you can start to see that they have to do things differently. They have to do quizzes on the front end, segmentation, different types of videos, live versus recorded. all sorts of crazy stuff nowadays because the original thing has stopped working as well in certain markets. That's one of the problems with marketing, and that's why I try to teach the fundamentals and principles. Because if you know the fundamentals and principles, you will never get caught flat-footed on that. But if you just know a template, or if you're just really good at writing a specific type of VSL, you're going to be out of work within the next few months, maybe the next few years. So a lot of what I teach you isn't going to be like, yeah, use this exact template. This is going to be perfect for you forever. It's going to be, here's what I would do in that situation, and here's the principle behind it. All right. No problem, Anthony. Thank you. So Daryl says, if we want to research what others are charging for copywriting service and compare that to our own value, where would you consider the best places to look? Okay, great question, Daryl. So let's do a live thing here. Now, most of us are in the same circles right now. So let's go to the Cult of Copy job board and see what is being offered both from copywriters and both from people who are hiring copywriters. Let's see. Actually, I didn't notice that Robert tagged me in that. I'll have to go check that out. Let's see. Believe your message is hiring for a full-time position. Let's see what they say it's worth. A lot of the time they don't talk about stuff in here, but they say something like competitive, full-time position with growth opportunities, full-time compensation based on experience. All right, so if somebody's hiring you full-time as a copywriter, like some of these guys do, then they're going to offer income anywhere from around $40,000 per year to around $60,000 or $70,000 per year. I got a job offer from Agora recently that was for $50,000 per year, and so that's kind of like their base rate. And then most of these jobs have incentives built into all of their packages, so royalties or incentives of some sort, and that would be what a full-time compensation is based off of, Daryl. So this is what people are paying copywriters necessarily. Now for freelancers, we can start to look at some of the offers on here. So article writer, this person does not give a price. A lot of the time they do. Let's see. Staff, a lot of time they don't actually. I see a lot of people say I have this kind of budget. $16 per 500 words. So one thing you're going to notice about the Cult to Copy job board is that there's a very wide range. There's the people who want to pay $16 for 500 words, and there are people who are ready and willing to pay 4 and 5 figures for a copywriting package. So, you know, $800 for $20 a piece. Let's see. And by noticing that, you're going to start seeing that the lowballer people are much more frequent and they're a lot harder to work with. One of the previous mentees, Brent Cameron, has applied for a lot of these and found that, you know, even if they respond in the first place, they're usually just a bitch to follow up with. So because they're either not really that keen on hiring a copywriter in the first place, or maybe they ran out of money, you know, something happened. So take this place with a grain of salt. One of the things I like about the Cult to Copy job board is that even though the people posting the jobs are kind of lowballer people, there's over 7,000 members now, and a lot of those members are players. So if you post content in here, then you can obviously charge more for your stuff, whether it's 4 figures or 5 figures, because you're the one posting the job offer, as long as it's valuable to the right people and you've written the post in the right way. So that's how I go about researching what other people are charging and comparing your value. But here's the bottom line, Daryl. The bottom line is what other people are charging versus what you charge is irrelevant. Now, the client might go, well, this guy offered blank, for this price, or this guy offered the same thing for this price, and you say, okay, well, great, then go with him. And if they're trying to lowball you, or if they're trying to grab that client, or they're trying to manipulate you in some way, you say, look, my price is my price, my value is my value, and what some other person has priced their value is their own decision. If you want to go with a cheaper writer, then go with a cheaper writer. That's not on me, and that, you will get what you pay for in copywriting, full stop. So that level of confidence in your own pricing is going to be more valuable than learning what other people are charging. Right now, I charge 5-figure packages. I've had people come to me and say that's too much, and I've had people come to me and say, wow, that's it. And that's for 5-figure packaging. So there's a certain amount of confidence that's required in your prices that can't be found from positioning yourself where other people are charging, if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense, Daryl. Okay. Sorry, Richard asks, how much of my business is word of mouth versus having to write proposals? Currently, Richard, I would say that 90% of my business is word of mouth. So I don't have to write a proposal in its traditional sense anymore. The last time I wrote one was earlier this year. But with that said, though, in the beginning, I definitely had to write email-based proposals or word-based proposals. And those ones were always unique to the client depending on what their needs were and what the project was. All right. You're welcome, Jenny. Jenny asks, could there be a next proposal after this one where they demand more details and spec? And what would that need to look like? Okay, so, in your specific case, they asked you to just send a really quick proposal and then send a bigger one on the back end. Is that correct, Jenny? I believe that's correct. So the next proposal, one thing I don't want you to do is get into this proposal loop, right, where they're not going to take action on the thing that you talked about, and they're going to let the emotions and needs in their mind die because they're just doing this proposal loop. Now, I would not do that. If you as the freelancer can say, look, if you like the first proposal, you agree on the issues, you agree on the solutions, then let's get the specific specs down right now and send a payment today. Because this going around in circles is wasting you time and wasting you money and wasting your employees' energy. And that is the specific thing that we're trying to fix here. That's how I would approach that situation, Jenny. So do not get in a loop. Don't allow them to be like, oh yeah, we loved your first proposal, but we need more details on it, so send a second proposal. Oh yeah, we loved your second proposal, but we didn't agree with this particular spec sheet, so could you send a third proposal and outline this specs more specifically and a specific timeline of work, and then, oh, we just decided to move forward with this project with another user because your price was too high. And then now you've wasted weeks of your time and energy doing this stuff. So I would compel them to action, and if they're not willing to move to action, then they're probably a bad client. Giles says, I'm trying to write some sales copy, a new landing page for a Buddhist teacher that is coming up on our site. Okay, let me grab that link for you real quick. Struggling with the balance of not being too salesy with the audience that is quite sensitive to being sold to. Okay. Most people are sensitive to being sold to. The only people who aren't really sensitive to being sold to are marketers. Okay. So there's a difference between being salesy and being persuasive. Let's get that out of the way first. Salesy sounds like sales, like, this is going to be the absolute best event that you ever go to in your entire life, full stop. You need to drop everything. You need to sell your children. You need to get over here no matter where you are. Steal, rob, get here. That's salesy, right? It's used car salesman type stuff. Everybody's used to it. Everybody knows what you're talking about. Now, persuasive is simply communicating them with the values and the desires and the fears that they already have. That's being persuasive. So right now, online course with Stephen Batchelor, if I don't know who Stephen Batchelor is, it's completely irrelevant to me. I have no idea who this person is. Now, if that market does know who he is, like I'm going to use a really big example, online course with Tony Robbins, online course with Deepak Chopra, online course with the Dalai Lama, you know, something like that, then that is going to compel me to keep reading because I understand and I recognize who this is. So first question, would they recognize this name if they saw it, right? And then the 4 great tasks, rethinking the Dharma for a secular age. I don't know what this means either. Again, I'm not the target market, but how does this compel me to join the event? What does this teach me that I don't already know? What does this teach me that is new to what I already know? And that's going to be the main question on my mind, regardless of what kind of where I'm entering this. So if I want to learn more about Stephen, I like that this is the end, because Stephen is simply the vehicle for the thing that you are offering. This is, unless Stephen himself is popular enough to sell tickets, like Gary Vaynerchuk or Tony Robbins or something like that would be enough to sell tickets, then you're going to need to give me some sort of reason for wanting this. So instead of the 4 great tasks, then put a headline up here that says, and I honestly have no idea what this is all about, but a headline that says something like, Dharma for a, what is Dharma? Dharma is like duty or some sort of like obligation in Buddhism. So the 4 great tasks would be a new way to rethink Dharma in the age of Twitter and Facebook, or a new way to think of Dharma in the age of or hyper-realism, or something like that, something that intrigues me, something that's fascinating to this market because it's going to teach them something new and be relevant to them. Okay, so it's an alternative to the 4 Noble Truths, which is central to Buddhism. Do they want an alternative to the 4 Noble Truths? Is that something that people are looking for? Is there something wrong with the 4 Noble Truths? Is there something that pisses people off about the 4 Noble Truths? That's my question. Okay, here, I'm gonna bring you on. Do you have a microphone, Giles? Let me know if you have a microphone. I'm gonna bring you on here. Yeah, I mean, if you wanna hop into a conference room real quick at work, let me know, and then I'll turn on your microphone and we can talk about it real quick. I did the same thing. I worked for a startup down in downtown Boulder, and I was taking client calls in private sales rooms when I first started. So I feel you. I feel you, man. I was using their printer to print off PDFs so I could research them. Bad. Bad, bad, bad. Let me know when you get in there. I'm going to answer another question while you're working on that. Okay, so oh, that's weird. Okay, Debbie, I'm going to try and figure out if you can get access to the Cult of Copy job board. That's odd. So all right, and then Richard, and then Jenny. Okay, so Anthony asks, do you usually have multiple projects in the hopper that you're working on, or do you go just one at a time and get through? So originally, I actually worked on multiple projects at once. That became exhausting. It's very difficult for me to switch back and forth from one type of message to another, especially if it's a very different market. Like at one point, I was working on a personal development offer at the same time I was working on a fitness offer, and just doesn't, it's hard. So I've since stopped putting multiple projects in and worked on one at a time and made those projects bigger. And now my goal as a copywriter is to get a certain price point for my copy and then work on that for the next 4 to 8 weeks, and then get another client at the same price point with royalties and keep going from there. That way I limit my workload to, 6 to 12 clients per year, and I can get better results, I get paid better for them, and I get the royalties recurring from that. So that's me right now as a copywriter. That's where I want to go, and that's where I have been offering all my services. So with that said, though, when you're just starting out, having testimonials and having people who you've worked with vouching for you is the single most powerful thing that you can do for your marketing. I can teach you a bunch of hacks and tricks and all this kind of stuff for when you're first starting out, but at the end of the day, you need to have those testimonials in order to be fully effective, because that social proof is really what helps copywriters the most, and that's what helped me the most as a copywriter, which is why I encourage you to do it. There's going to be a bonus module that you'll have access to that'll show you exactly how I do that. All right, Yelena. Yelena says, I'm curious about affiliate marketing as a way to test my own copy and gain experience and diversify income. Can you speak to that? Would you say it's a costly route to go as a beginner? So my honest opinion, Yelena, is that affiliate marketing seems like it's a great place to start until you start. Now, there's a lot of stuff that goes into affiliate marketing that the affiliate marketers don't like to talk about. And one of those things is the sheer competitiveness of it when you get a good offer. There are people out there spending $10,000 or $100,000 per day in advertising to advertise these powerful offers. And so your CPMs are going to be really high, your advertising is going to be really high, and you're going to have to become a very good person at paid traffic, which is not necessarily about copywriting. If you are writing things like bridge pages or things like that that go to the offer, you're never actually writing for the product itself, and you're relying on the strength of the copy of the offer, and then you're basically testing your ability to write a bridge page for the right audience. And a bridge page, for those of you that don't know, is basically just a page that sits in the middle between your ad and an affiliate offer, so that there's some sort of context behind the offer that on the traffic you're sending, and you also tend to capture that email address or that contact information somehow so you can remarket to them. There's a whole world that goes into it. And I don't want to turn you away from it if that's something that you're interested in. I know that a lot of people have made a lot of money from affiliate marketing, but to go into it thinking that it's just an easy thing to get started with is not the right not the right angle. If you want to go into it as a thing that you're fully committed to and to learning and to making work, then I would do it. But don't do it as simply a means to an end to learn copywriting, because there's far better ways to do that. You can get 3 to 5 clients and get results for them, and boom, now you've got what would have taken you 6 to 9 months with affiliate marketing. That's my advice. Jenny says, okay guys, I'll get you in just a second. Jenny says, what is a good or bad time on page to indicate that there's a real problem with the website? If it's desktop or mobile, there's a difference. Desktop, I would say time on page. Well, obviously, there's two things. There's bounce rate and there's time on page. So bounce rate is how many people hit the page and leave immediately. And if that's really, really high, then there's some sort of disconnect between the traffic source for that page and the page itself. That's what you want to look at there. If the people who do stay long enough to consume the sales message, then you know you've got a good page. If they're leaving prematurely, as in you have a 15-minute video but your time on page is 2 minutes, then you know there's a problem. And I would look at your video statistics. If your blog post takes 7 minutes to read and they're on the page for a minute, you know there's a problem with the blog post, and you can look at heat maps for that. So all those things are focused on the specific page that you're talking to, not really this general concept of good time, bad time. The strategy is to hope that the page is as close to consuming the entire piece of content, or sorry, the time on page is as close to consuming the entire piece of content that would be relevant. That's how I can answer that, Jenny. Need more context specifically on the page. If you wanted to share one, we can look at it. All right, Giles, I'm going to bring you on. There's two of you. I'm going to choose the first one. Hey, Giles, can you hear me?
Hi, Lucas. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, so thanks for taking the time to look at this one. He's actually quite a well-known Buddhist teacher in the insight world.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty divisive and a bit of a scholar on the sort of the text. So he kind of, I don't know, he sort of turns what everyone believes Buddhism to be, and sort of actually goes back to it all. That's why he's sort of offering an alternative to the Four Noble Truths, being the Four Great Tasks. But
okay.
But I mean, I've done a lot of retreats and quite into meditation, but I still find the subject and the content so heavy and rich, and to do it justice, and also the sensitivity of the audience, I find it's quite hard to sort of, I almost get overwhelmed by having so much, and almost the responsibility of having to write it all.
Well, let's not talk about the content. Let's talk about the audience, because a lot of people start with the content and they get overwhelmed because they're like, oh, there's so much I need to tell people about. That's not what people give a shit about.
Right.
So let's start with the audience. Who is going to see this?
So these would be, I think, pretty dedicated practitioners or meditators who consider themselves Buddhists.
Okay.
Pretty alternative, quite into sustainability, interested in the sort of the history and perhaps a new take on.
Why would they be interested in a new take on Buddhism?
Just because that's who Stephen really tends. He's quite a divisive sort of teacher, and he's quite against the normal sort of dogmatic teaching.
So what type of people follow him already?
I mean, they would still be Buddhists, because some of his books have been like Confessions of an Atheist and things like that. So, yeah, I just think sort of not mainstream, perhaps like alternative Buddhists, if that's a word, maybe more mindfulness-y sort of, yes, not so traditional, I guess.
Right, but that's all about him. Who's like...
Yeah.
Who are the people who are specifically interested in this guy?
I think people are just very committed to their practice and want perhaps a take on the practice which comes from the...
Are they dissatisfied in some way with their practice?
I think they would maybe be dissatisfied with too much, holding on so dearly to just what traditions told them over years, and perhaps actually someone really saying, well, this is an alternative take on that which is you're being told is so believable. There may be another sort of slant on the teaching.
So they're dissatisfied somehow with their current teaching, and there's a reason for that. Because people don't go listen to secular-minded, controversially minded people unless they're one of two types of people. They're either extremely dedicated to their particular brand and they want to go watch the person simply for some masochistic desire to argue, or they are interested in hearing what they have to say because they have some sort of dissatisfaction with their own lives or their own practice or their own stuff and their own beliefs, and they want to hear an alternative. And if you want to, with American politics, you can call it the Trump effect. But there's like those two extremes are the only ones who want to listen to people who are breaking the mold and communicating a different alternative, because otherwise people who are happy with their beliefs don't necessarily want to go and challenge their beliefs. In fact, that's one of the things that they avoid, like the plague. So you're going to be attracting both of those people, but I would probably want to focus more on the people who are dissatisfied in some way with their beliefs and looking for an alternative.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
you're going specifically for the people who follow Stephen Batchelor and you just want to fill the room up with Stephen Batchelor fanboys. And if that's the case, then you just target Stephen Batchelor fanboys and you say, hey, this guy's going to be here at this date, show up. And,
I mean, I
and
think
that's all
that's
you got to
probably
do.
the main idea for the. And we've got 2 weeks to go, and that's sort of it's just trying to get hold of the people. Most people would know him, and I don't think. I think it's probably a little bit too heavy to just get someone who's not really got much history in Buddhism, because they wouldn't know, as you say, they wouldn't
Right.
know what
Right,
are.
yeah. I would never recommend with 2 weeks left to go after someone who doesn't have a history in Buddhism.
Yeah.
It's just not your target market for this. The target market for this would either be a level 1 audience, which is the Stephen Batchelor fanboys. So anyone within a 30-mile radius of wherever this thing is going to take place.
It's an online one. So.
Oh, it's online. Okay, so perfect. So anyone who wants to be there for 3 days? No.
No, it's 4 weeks. Yeah, sort of 4 recorded sessions and 4 live ones.
What's the cost on this?
I think it's about 250 or sort of. Yeah.
Why are there different prices?
He quite likes to do something adana, so it can, if you can pay more to support others, or people who can't pay as much, they can pay a little bit less. The good old Buddhist generosity.
Really?
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
he's been a monk. He's quite into that, but he's the only one we've got that's into that.
Okay, because me, I have no idea what this means. I'm like, what the hell? Does this mean I only get one module? Or okay, so I guess you really have to be in the market to understand that particular piece of it. But on top of that, it's a multi-week thing. Okay, so is he going to talk about like one task per week?
Yeah.
And
we ran it last year.
Q&A, discussion forums. Who bought it last year?
It would have been people who'd been on retreat with him or knew him. I mean, he sold quite a lot of books, so people who bought his book.
Do you have lists of those books?
Not the books, I don't think, but we've certainly got the retreat centres that he's taught at.
Okay.
And I think we've got a 6,000 mailing list on our meditation website that we run that he's taught on as well.
So I would basically switch this this conversation right here to more about this course specifically and less about Stephen. Because if they're Stephen fanboys and they know who he is, they've read his books, they don't need to know about him. Other than maybe this about page here. I would focus specifically on what they're going to learn in these modules and why it's important to them to do right now and pay money for. Okay. Because these 4 great tasks, I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know much about Buddhism, but I think that one of the primary tenets is that you live what you preach every day, or, and it's an integral part of your life. So if you're going to make this change in your life, then it needs to be quick. Right? It's not this kind of gradual, like, you can't afford to wait type thing.
Right.
I don't know if that's true, but you can incorporate that into the urgency if you need to.
Sure. Yeah. So don't create karma for tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would focus primarily on the course, because if they're fanboys already and they like Stephen and they're willing to pay Stephen money to listen to Stephen, whether buying his books or going to his courses at these retreat centers or that sort of thing, then they've already demonstrated the ability to buy and the desire to buy. Now you have to give them the urgency and the specificity and the clarity that will help them jump the hump if there's anything blocking them from joining during these dates.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be your primary audience. And with the short time frame, I would focus 100% on that level 1 audience where they're already fanboys and they just need to have a good reason to buy something.
Yeah.
The next step would, like if you had more time or if you were going to try and promote this again to a cold audience, then you'd either move up to a level 2 or level 3 audience, where level 2 would be the people who are Buddhists and they're looking to improve their practice, and you're going to come at them from a new angle, a better solution angle, because they're already looking to improve their practice. And then this is the better solution. Level 3 is the problem. So maybe they're not necessarily Buddhist yet, or maybe they have Buddhist tendencies, but they haven't really committed to a practice. And there's a reason for that, and they're experiencing some sort of pain or discomfort in that realm. And you can come forward and say, look, the reason most people have problems with Buddhism is because it's too dogmatic and too religious. And one of the ways that you can actually get the benefits of Buddhism and meditation and mindfulness is to come at it from an agnostic perspective, and here it is. Like something to that effect, right? You're moving up the awareness chain.
And when you're doing that, Lucas, if you're going to sort of try and get everyone, would you have sort of 4 different landing pages and 4 strategies, and starting at say 2 months out, a month out, 2 weeks out, but sort of
Yes.
trying to get as many as you could in that way?
Yes. So
Yeah.
there's lots of different strategies. We would have to talk specifically about what your goal would be, what the price point is, and if it's a launch, if it's evergreen, all that kind of stuff. Because the end goal will dictate the strategy.
Right.
So I honestly wouldn't even say like 4 landing pages, 5 landing pages, 5 webinars, 5 books, anything like that, because it's just too complex unless you're working on evergreen style funnels. And in which case I would recommend that you start as close to level 1 as possible and then work your way up as you've optimized each one, rather than starting them all at the same time.
Okay.
Versus a launch, you're trying to get as many people as possible, and the launch is going to hit on multiple areas that someone can be in. They might have a problem and they're going to come watch the video because they have the problem, or they might be a practitioner at level 2 and they need to experience a difference or experience a better solution, and the videos will help them do both of those things. But they have to be crafted in a way that does that.
Okay. That makes sense. That was something that's very clear from starting your course, having done these filmings before of teachers, is that the amount of time we've had with the teacher where we could have got all the information, the marketing material, and actually written down about what the course is about, other than trying to do it retrospectively. It's so time consuming now that it could be done a lot easier when with the teacher and putting the courses together with a copywriting sort of perspective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And understanding the level you're trying to reach in the beginning will help you do that.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, does that help?
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you.
No problem. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and I'll answer a couple more questions here.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Was that helpful for everyone else? Looking at it from different perspectives like that? Okay, cool. Good. That's kind of how the hot seats are going to be. This is not obviously one of the assignments, but the hot seats are valuable because you not only get to see feedback on your own piece, which is always really valuable, not a lot of people get that, but you also see how other people wrote and what their justifications were, and then some of the feedback that we give on that. So I think the hot seats are really, really valuable for people, even if you're not watching your specific one at the time. Okay, so Anthony, in regards to priming the pump, I'm not really sure. Sorry, I can't remember what I was saying. So yeah, I think you responded to something I said, and it says basically looking at it like priming the pump. I don't know what that means. So we're going to go to our group here and look at some comments. Unless anybody has any questions live, because we're about 10 minutes towards the end. We'll go a little bit over, but we've answered all the questions live on here so far, and let's dive in. So Charlotte has a bunch of questions, so let's dive into the first one. How can you make pin post show on the Facebook app? I totally missed this. I'm not sure if it's true for everyone because they're always split testing stuff, but on the Facebook app, I know that if you go to the group in Facebook itself, as in you go to the main Facebook app, then you can select, I'm just going to do it live to see if it actually does it, groups, and then I'm going to, if the internet would work for me, apparently it's not working on my phone, But you go and you select groups, and usually there's like a tab at the very, very top that says show pinned post of some sort. That's how I would do it. I think that's how it works. Right now my phone's being slow. So the second one, if the list is the most important thing to market to and you don't have a list, what is the quickest way to build a list? Okay, so this sounds like it's in reference to the 25 by 4 training, because obviously 25% of the strong marketing strategy is the list. Now, the list is a reference to the list that you're working on at the time. So, and it's also the audience that you're marketing to. So the list, quote unquote, in regards to the 25 by 4 rule, guys, is the audience that you're going to be showing your promotion piece to. That could be a cold traffic audience from Facebook or YouTube or Google Ads or podcasts or radio or TV. That can still be the list. Now, internet marketers have hijacked that term because they stole it from old direct response marketers who had these big Rolodex lists of everyone who had bought certain products and, you know, within certain time frames. But those customer lists that they were referring to don't necessarily mean the list in terms of the 25 by 4 content. It's basically just whoever you're marketing to. So with that said, if you don't have a list yet, as in an email list or a customer list, then you can always go to a cold traffic audience that is targeting the right type of person for you. Facebook makes it really, really easy to target on demographics and psychographics. Google AdWords makes it really easy to target on intent. YouTube makes it really easy to target on interest and intent and a little bit of psychographics based on the video channels. And so on and so on. Podcasts and radio and TV allow you to target specific channels or, you know, specific types of viewers at certain time frames, all that kind of stuff. All of that is the list. That's the person or the audience that you're targeting for that product. So with that said, the quickest way to build a list is to identify who you're trying to target and why, and then identifying the easiest way to get to that person. Now, what I think you're also asking is, how do you build your own list for a specific product that you can control, whether it's an email list or a customer list or something. Think about a list as an audience, and think about an audience as being quality over quantity, unless you're going for a very specific strategy that you would have to justify. And so with that, if you're building a list, the quickest way to build it would either be through quizzes or through giveaways. Now, both of those things will build a list very big, very quickly, but both of those things do not necessarily have the highest level of quality for that list. A giveaway will attract freebie seekers. A quiz will attract people who are distracted and not really committed to the end result. So that's the quickest way, quizzes or giveaways. The best way to build a list is to have people buy something from you and then keep their name on a list. Because now they're a customer, and however much they bought from you, then they are some of your best possible customers. You've already proven that they bought something from you. The next best list is someone who's bought something from someone else. You can look and see at Amazon, people who've purchased. You can talk to JVs and affiliates and get their customer lists or barter with them, that sort of thing. There's a whole, list stuff in general is one of the key pillars, one of the 25 by 4. So there's so much to learn about it that it's really hard to answer that question specifically, but hopefully I've done a decent job on that one, Charlotte. I'll just recap real quick because it is a big answer. The list is the audience you're marketing to, and if you don't have a list, you need to understand who you're trying to target and why, and then go find that audience as quickly as possible. And if you're trying to build your own list, I would focus on quality over quantity and quality over speed. But if you truly need to grow it very quickly for some reason, then quizzes or giveaways are the best way to grow a list quickly. That's the best answer I can give with that context. Let's see. Third one, is there anything different with regards to list building when it comes to business owners, CEOs, CEOs, as people aren't really on Facebook or LinkedIn? False. These people are all over Facebook and LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn. But all over Facebook as well. Every single one of my clients has either come from a referral and I've connected with them on Facebook, or I found them on Facebook directly. And these are CEOs of 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure companies. Now, the business owners at the super high end, we're talking the CEO of a Fortune 100 company, may or may not be on Facebook or LinkedIn actively as an individual. So when we're talking about the hyper high end, the hyper affluent, the ultra affluent, those people tend to be lower, they tend to be stealthy. They tend to not interact as much on Facebook or LinkedIn, although I will argue that they probably still have a profile of some sort. It's just very, very private and hard to target them. So it kind of depends on who you're trying to target. If you're looking for 7-figure business owners, they are all over Facebook and LinkedIn. 8-figure business owners, all over. 9-figure business owners, all over. Only when you get into the multi-billion-dollar companies do you start to realize that those people are not as much on Facebook or LinkedIn. So they are on there. You just have to target them demographically and psychographically, because you can't just type in CEO and get all CEOs, or business owners and get 7-figure business owners. All right, Charlotte. How do you build credibility with your irresistible offer when you don't have a lot of social proof and testimonials, because the work you've done is in the 9-to-5 area? And then a follow-up to that, do qualifications such as university degrees, MBAs, and Lean Six Sigma, Black Belt training count in the online world and online marketing? All right, so I'm going to answer these both at the same time. And I answered this for, I believe it was Miha in one of the older students earlier, but I'll answer it again for everyone who's on the call. So I can assume that a lot of you guys are dealing with this problem. You don't have a lot of social proof or testimonials right now. Is that correct, everyone on the call? Because I'm going to ask for your feedback on this question just so I know that I'm hitting the mark with the answer. So Anthony, correct. Jenny, correct. Daryl, correct. Okay, so social proof and testimonials. My question to you guys on the call, Giles, well, Eddie, okay, so Eddie has social proof and testimonials, cool. So most of you guys, not all of you guys, are dealing with having enough social proof and testimonials. My question to you first would be, how much do you think is required in order to have enough? That's my first question. How much do you think is enough? My suspicion for both Charlotte and everybody on the call is that you've never actually decided how much social proof and testimonial you need in order to feel like you've got that down. Now, one of the cop-out answers is like as many as possible, but you guys have 5, but there's question marks. ED. Okay, I'll do that right. ED for Edith, probably, right? I'll get it right one of these days. It took me like 4 weeks to get one person's name right. I kind of forgot who they were. Oh, David. I kept calling him Paras like the Pokemon, but it was Paris. Okay, so you guys, Giles and Jenny, have both said 5 good clients. Here's my perspective on social proof and testimonials, just in a big nutshell. If you get 1 really good testimonial, that's enough. Especially if that testimonial is from someone with a lot of clout. But 1 good testimonial will be enough to get you another 5 or 10 clients. Because just having 1 testimonial, like 1 person who actually goes, this person is really awesome, you should work with them, is enough to set you apart from about 80% of the other copywriters. Because 80% of the other copywriters suck. Like, they run away from their clients, they don't deliver on time, their copy stinks, whatever. 1 would be enough. Giles. Got it. Not Giles. Man, I am so American. Okay. Giles and Edie. International people. 1 testimonial is enough to start getting the ball rolling. Not 5, not 3, 1. Now, I would recommend that you keep going and keep over-delivering and doing the best work you possibly can at all times, but especially in the beginning, to get 3 to 5 of them, because that just seals the deal. But 1 testimonial is enough to show people that you're the real deal. One of the best things that ever happened to my career was Harlan Kilstein hired me to write a VSL for him, and it crushed it. And he, without me asking and without my knowledge, went onto the Cult of Copy job board and posted about it and basically said, hire the guy. I had so much work after that 1 testimonial that I couldn't handle it all. I had to turn people away. 1 testimonial. Now, that was from a guy who was well respected and a guy who doesn't give testimonials very often. So I got lucky. I also had a testimonial from Ryan Levesque when I wrote for him and wrote his copy. That got me a ton of clients. Got me a couple of my best clients, people who've paid me over 6 figures over the last couple years in individual product fees or project fees. 1 testimonial from the right person can work, and 1 testimonial from a random person can help you. Case in point, I'm going to go find this real quick because I noticed it, and you guys probably noticed it as well, but Beth Scott is a copywriter on the Cult of Copy job board. Boom, right here. Rafael Pardidas. Who knows who this is? I don't. Most people don't. And this is all was posted here. You're amazing. Hire her. This is who she is. Thanks, Facebook thing. Almost 90 comments, or 90 likes and 11 comments, and I have no idea how much work Beth got from this, but I think it was a ton. 1 comment from a random person. That's it. 1. And if you ask them very politely to post on a board like this, you will have enough work. I guarantee it. 1 testimonial. So let's go to, no, that's the preferred group. 1 testimonial. So with that said, if you don't have any yet, then you talk about results. And you always want to talk about results anyway and value and things like that, but you talk about results here because the work you've done in the 9 to 5 area still has results attached to it. This is for Charlotte and everybody else listening on live on the call. Still has results attached to it because unless you were sitting on your butt and staring at a computer and doing nothing at your job, you have some sort of result, especially if you were in some sort of marketing role. And if you weren't in a marketing role, you've got some sort of result that you can talk about in another fashion that relates to persuasion, whether it was negotiating a promotion, getting a good transfer, getting a better deal, finding a better client, or helping a client through something stressful, something. Go dredge your experience in these areas and use those as results that you can talk to people about from your ability to persuade. Because copywriting and the ability to persuade are closely linked. So if you can find a result where you were able to successfully persuade someone, then use that. And that jumps into this next part of the question, which is these qualifications. Degrees, MBAs, Lean Six Sigma, other courses, things like that, they don't count by themselves, but the results that you've produced either in the course learning about it or as a result of that course do count. You can't just say, I have a degree from Yale when you're trying to be a copywriter. It doesn't work because people don't respect that. I have an MBA when you're trying to be a copywriter. Results are what matters. But I guarantee that the 4 years you spent at university, you turned in assignments, you got good grades, you talked with business owners, you interned probably, all those different things where you can dredge that for results. MBA, same thing. What did your thesis get? What did your some of your experiments get with your courses? Lean Six Sigma Black Belt training, what results did you get during that training that you can talk about? What things did you accomplish? Other courses, things like that. Little insight into my experience as a copywriter. When I got my very first job, I charged $300 for a sales order, and I thought I wasn't going to get it because I'm like, $300 is a lot of money, and this guy's never going to say yes to $300 for a sales letter. And he did immediately and PayPal'd me like in the next couple minutes. And that was a game changer for me because I realized that this guy was so eager to get a sales letter written at that price that I probably could have charged him more and he would have been completely fine with it. But on top of that, he hired me with no actual experience. I had bought a couple templates on copywriting, and I'd been trained by a copywriter and, you know, handwritten some stuff and gotten mentored and all that kind of jazz. But I didn't really have any results to claim of my own yet. So I said, look, I've been trained. This is what I've done. And I emailed him, actually. Whole group got to see the email, but I'm not going to bring that up this time because I don't want to search it. But this is what I have. This is what I've done so far. These are the people that I've worked with in different capacities. Like at that point, I had gotten to work with Mike Dillard at his company, which was kind of a big deal, being able to drop that name. But I didn't write copy for Mike, and I was able to show I've worked for these people. I did this course. I've worked on this mentorship thing. This is where I'm at right now. Would you please hire me? And he's like, sure. And then our projects did amazingly well together. And then I use that as a result, and I use that as samples, and I still use those as samples to this day. So that's how you get started. It's basically just taking everything that you currently have and talking to enough people to get that first couple clients for you to get results. And there's no secret hack to it. You don't need some 15-step webinar funnel to get your first client. You literally just need a little bit of guts and an email address, and you start asking people. That's it. Holy cow, Edie. Wow. All right. Give me a sec, guys. Okay, Edie, I'm not going to insult you, but this I'm going to read later, and then I'm going to go down here and get to the actual thing. So okay, actually, here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a question, Edie. And this might help. If you were talking to you as a client, what would you tell you to do? Here, I'm going to unmute you. Because you're probably, here, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
Oh, so you are unmuted.
Great.
All right. So, yes.
What would I say? I'd say, who do you want to work with? What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm. And what's the answer to that?
I don't know that I know.
Why?
Because there's so many options. Bit of a cop-out answer, actually. I know it's a cop-out answer. Well, I mean, that's kind of the answer, I guess. there are literally so many options and possibilities of who I can target, what I can offer, and
Tell me about your
I
favorite
want to
client.
favorite client. The ones who have all the dark stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really good at just going in and seeing and feeling and absolutely just meeting someone with all of the dark stuff, all of the shadows that they don't understand and that they're completely overwhelmed by, all the shame, all the depression, these kind of really intense areas, because I can see exactly what's going on, and open them up and guide them through it.
Okay, but you also copped out on that answer. Who's your favorite client? You don't have to say their name, but you can talk about them.
The last person I worked with, which I loved working with, was someone who had insane potential, and just could not get his life working. And it was amazing working with him and just getting him to see his own potential. I've loved that. And then right now I have another client who my hands are just completely in the pie, because she has health concerns from here to Timbuktu, and she's seen world-class experts. They've tested her for everything and they can't find anything. And so we're just in the start of it, and looking at diagnostic tests and stuff like that, and more to do with the health side. But of course, it's completely impacted her mentally and health and just physically. And I'm loving working with that. I just like challenging cases.
How did the first guy find you? Insane potential.
Loved it. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
No. How did he find you? Sorry, that may have been a slightly mistranslation. How did he find you? Yeah, how did he come about learning who you were?
Through NLM. Last year I did a stint. Last year I was working with Dan Meredith, and I asked him pretty much this exact question, and he said just work with male entrepreneurs, try that. And when I did, I put a message up in NLM and also Dan's group, and I marketed myself as a purpose and mindset person, and I got a lot of people sort of take me up on that offer, and he came through as one of those people.
Okay, and did he pay you?
No, this one wasn't a paid arrangement.
Okay.
We worked
What about the health concerns?
That wasn't with him. Health concerns is with a woman that I'm working with right now.
Was that person paid?
No, actually.
Okay.
I know.
So do you see a slight issue here?
I see an absolute issue here. Yeah,
so where your favorite people to work with, the ones who need your help the most, are not paying you.
Uh-huh.
And what?
There's something in here about loving really complex clients, but also absolutely wanting to know that I can deliver, which I tend to all the time. But
have you ever had a client that was not happy with your service?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
And
what was that like?
what was that like for me to experience, or what was the reason why they weren't happy?
Yeah, for you to experience it.
Uh, hmm. It wasn't great, but actually I felt strong about it because I knew in many ways it was because they failed to take responsibility for themselves. They just lumped their problem onto me. And they thought, oh, well, you know, you're just this magical being, which I'm not. And then you can deal with all of it. And that's why I don't like seeing woo-woo clients. And by the nature of my work, I attract a lot of woo-woo clients. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I need someone who's open-minded enough to go to try it, I suppose. But then the minute they're in, I haven't had anyone say, "Oh, you're making shit up."
Mm.
So it doesn't matter if they disbelieve or anything like that. We bust through that pretty quickly. But there tends to be something about a person who is even attracted to this work that sometimes likes to play. It just expects it to make them feel good without them investing any effort. But that's not actually the nature of my work. It's kind of hardcore. I take people to places they don't want to go and I make them face what it is that they don't want to face. Because only through that do they end up really seeing what it is that's blocking them and then moving through that. And it's not an easy process.
Okay, so let's step back a little bit from what you do and from all of that, right? Because I think you've got your stuff around what you do pretty solid. And so I want to talk about the clients that you've worked with that you love working with, the clients that have paid you in some fashion for this service. Have you had anyone pay you specifically for what you're offering here?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And did you enjoy working with them?
Yeah, but not as much. It's really and the reason, like as you're asking me, the reason is because I like taking on complex things, but I'm not confident really that I can deliver on those complex things, and I do end up delivering anyway. But it's so yeah. Oh man.
You're starting to see a little bit of the disconnect here. Also, one thing that I heard, I don't know if you said it in passing, was you talked with Dan about this a year ago, and now you're asking me the same question. Which means there's something.
Yeah, there's a lot in this something, and I don't know that it's so appropriate to include.
Well, and I'm kind of anti-Dan. I'm not anti-Dan as a person. I might be the anti-Dan. I can't even grow a beard. But
yeah,
with that,
I understand. So there are, I guess, in a nutshell, I guess his style, his work, his offering, his capacity, I wasn't able to benefit from it in the way that I would have liked to. Maybe that's the most PC way of saying that. Right. Also, I'm not putting all of the blame on him. I have had a lot of life stuff in the last year that have throttled me. And so only now am I really in the position of clearing some of that to look at the business stuff.
Okay. So essentially, what we've got here is maybe not necessarily a target market problem, because he gave you a target market and you didn't feel comfortable working with it, or you didn't continue working with it, or something happened where you stopped working with it, and now you're asking me a question about where to go because you have too many options. And I don't think that is the real issue. I don't think having too many options is the real issue. But with that said, you know, Q&A call with a bunch of other people on the webinar. If you want, we can set up a time to actually go over this and talk about it, because a lot of copywriters, a lot of people in the course right now, I know some other people, they have a lot to offer outside of copywriting, outside of the thing that they're offering, and they're trying to kind of find their place. So what I would love to do is actually sit down and talk about that, because I think, well, I'm pretty positive I can dig down and figure out what the real questions are that we need to be asking that'll feel good. And then, if you want, we can share that with the rest of the group if you have a breakthrough or if it's something that you feel comfortable sharing. Is that cool?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lucas. I really appreciate that so much.
No problem. And I will read this. I want to see what you do because it looks really interesting. But I want to figure out what the answer to the question is.
What's going on here? Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. No worries. Talk later. Don't apologize. Okay. All right. Thanks. I'm going to mute you real quick. Okay, thank you, Edie. So Edie also had a last question here. Best way to connect to influencers. People have pull and find a way to get them in as a client, even for free, for that killer testimonial. We're 25 minutes over right now. So the influencer question is actually something that comes up later in the course where you can go and offer people. But in a nutshell, it's the only time I will ever authorize you to work for free, but only if it is the absolute perfect client or the absolute perfect result, and if there's an agreement in place that basically forces them to both use your work and give you a testimonial for it. Otherwise, it's not worth it. We will go over that later in the course, but I wanted to point that out because this is one of the best ways to catapult your career, to get someone with a big name, like I talked about earlier, to talk about your stuff, and it will flood you with clients if you're a service provider, and it will definitely boost your business if you're not, if you have a product. So we will go over that later in the course, but I wanted to give a quick aside there. Thank you, everyone, for being on here. Thank you for staying on for the extra 25 minutes. Hopefully this was valuable for everyone. Edie, I will send you a calendar link as soon as I'm done with this so that we can hop on. Everybody else, try to be on live for the hot seats tomorrow. They start at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I don't know what that is in any of your time zones because you guys are all over the place, but 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, due to the number of people who are in this mentorship course, you can plan on it being about 2 hours. And that doesn't mean you have to stay for the whole time. I will not publish a order beforehand because I'm just going to grab them as they came in. But if you want to be on live to ask questions or to get clarifications on either your piece or somebody else's piece, if you hear something interesting, then that would be super appreciative, and I appreciate your time and attention for that. Thank you all for your questions. It was a good Q&A, good long one. I appreciate this. And let us reconnect on Facebook, and I will see you all tomorrow for the very first hot seat. Bring some sting cream. All right, everybody have a good one, and I will talk to you tomorrow or in the Facebook group.